lovely listeners. Today I have the great honour of speaking with Fletcher Ellingson. Fletcher is now a speaker, coach, founder of Ellingson Enterprises, and you have a coaching and training company. And Fletcher helps people evolve their thinking to solve their biggest challenges around time, money, and people, so they can powerfully fulfill their mission. You've got an awful lot of experience, but I also know that you had some tough times. You lost a business, and you also at one point were on food stamps and ended up working for free for a website company. Is that right?
That is accurate. Yeah. We had wonderful ambitions and dreams of taking our business to, wonderful heights. And despite our best intentions, I simply did not have the knowledge needed to make that business fly. And so it crashed and burned hard.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we can hear more about that perhaps. But what I'd love, and what our listeners love, Fletcher, is to learn more about you. And certainly, obviously, you're now hugely successful with your own coaching business and speaking business. But, where have you come from? How did you get into coaching? You're out in Washington State. Great accent. And so I'd love to know more about you, Fletcher. Over to you.
All right. Well, let's see. My journey in personal development started when I was in elementary school, if you can believe that or not. I was reading a book called The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. I was a bit of an odd kid. I was already steeped into personal development. I don't know why.
Amazing.
Well, actually, I guess I do know why. We had a speaker who came to our elementary school. And this is such a neat story because it really does show how influential people can be on young minds. We had a guy come and he gave a talk about the power of positive thinking, essentially. And he handed out these stickers at the end of the assembly. And this is like, again, 3rd or 4th grade. So I'm very young. And I put that sticker on my metal bedpost in my bedroom. And I saw it every single day. And the sticker said, start your day with PMA, positive mental attitude. And then it said, expect something wonderful to happen. And I saw it every single day. And for some reason, it kind of ignited something in me. And it was a desire to learn more about the brain and thinking in a positive manner. Now, I don't know how deep into it I was in elementary school, but that's where it started. It was a seed that was planted and watered and nurtured. And I kind of followed that trajectory into my adult life. And here I am today.
Wow. So elementary school, how young is that?
Let's see, that would have been 3rd and 4th grade. I would have been probably 10 or 11, something like that.
Oh, wow, that is amazing. So you had an influence very young and obviously had that. So then what happened? Did you do university and all of that? Did you fall into a career, or did you just know exactly what you wanted to do?
You know what? I was an entrepreneur even from a very young age. And so I followed that trajectory as well. But when I was young, I had my paper route, and then I had my lawn mowing route where I'd ride my dad's 10-speed bicycle, which was way too big for me. And then with one of my hands, I was steering the bike, and with the other hand, I was pulling my lawnmower behind me up and down the blocks. And I was just going to people's homes and saying, hey, can I cut your grass? And pretty soon they said yes, and come back next week. And so I had a lawn mowing route. And then in high school, staying with the entrepreneurial vision, I started a window washing business with one of my friends. And so then we began washing windows and going on the radio and doing commercials for our business. And that was a fantastic opportunity. I learned so much about, running your own business. And then in college, I have a very diverse background when it comes to making money. In college, I pursued my love of magic, like performing magic, close-up magic, sleight of hand and illusions. And I was just very passionate about it. And I was one of those guys you see on the street down at the market on the corner with his table, and he's busting out card tricks and, you know, getting an audience to form around you. And so I did that, and I just fell in love with it. And so I became pretty good at it. And people started booking me for corporate gigs. And so I started doing that, and my whole family got involved. We had a big family show. And so I followed my dream of magic for a while, and I actually still do magic today. That's something I'll always do. I don't perform like I used to, but once in a while I'll perform for little small venues that I like. And then I thought, well, I want to go into the ministry. I'd always had an interest in religion, and I thought, I'm gonna go there so I can make an impact for people. And so I got my degree in biblical studies, of all things. Right. But then again, being pulled by the entrepreneurial strings, we cranked up this business. It was a soap making business where we manufactured all natural, high quality soaps, lotions, candles, lip balms. And we moved this business over to a destination farm, which is where I now live in Washington State, in a very small touristy town called Chelan, Washington. And we were selling all over the country, retail, wholesale and retail. But that was the business that crashed and burned that I was talking about earlier. We worked our tails off. So our failure was not because we weren't hard workers. It was simply because I was missing some critical elements about how to run a business. You know, I just thought you get in there, you work hard, right? And there's a little more to business than just working hard. And so that crashed and burned. Ultimately had to walk away with $20,000 in credit card debt, a family of 5, a mortgage, and $0 in the bank. And that was a scary time for us. And so we had to dig really deep and get creative in a hurry. But and in the moment, it felt like it was the worst thing, Mel, not being able to provide for your family, not knowing how to pay your mortgage. And like you mentioned, you know, qualifying for food stamps. And I just remembered that the first time we used them I think it was the only time. I just remember, and again, nothing against people who use food stamps. I mean, I'm glad that service is there as the safety net. But I just remember getting up to the counter and handing those over, and it just didn't feel good. And I just thought, I will never be in this position again. I'd made a decision right then and there. I will never be in this position again. And so a friend of mine went out and met with a person who had a really neat idea that he began implementing in the tech world. And I'll explain it to you what our company did, and you'll recognize it right away. But I'm sure, Mel, you've gone online and searched for homes online. You know, you put in 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and the name of the city, you hit enter, and all these results come up, right? Yeah. So that's called an IDX program. And our company was one of the first companies, in the world to begin coding that and making it available to the end users, which are you and me. So we could search for homes online. That technology was brand new, and we began developing it in a way that we then took to real estate companies around the United States. And so we were kind of on the forefront of that technology and brought it to the marketplace. And that opportunity allowed me to begin speaking in front of many thousands of people and traveling around the country and coaching other entrepreneurs, not just with this technology. But what I realized is that entrepreneurs all had these same issues that they were facing. And so I began coaching these people, not in a coaching capacity, but ended up coaching them in their business and in their mindset. And because I was heavy into mindset at this point. And so I was afforded the wonderful opportunity of just traveling around, speaking, showing this technology, but also coaching people in their mindset. And what I noticed was that entrepreneurs everywhere have the exact same challenges. Mm. And so I was able to really identify what the challenges were and begin to speak to those. And I realized I'm doing a lot of life coaching. And because would you agree, Mel, that our private lives and our professional lives, they're also intertwined?
Oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so I began seeing these patterns and realized that I had some information that could help people. And so that whole time that I was working in that tech program in the sales and marketing capacity really was setting me up for the career that I've been most passionate in my life about, which is mindset coaching. And that's what I've been doing for a number of years. And I absolutely love it. So that's how I got to where I'm at today.
So how long ago was the food stamps, and how long ago? So you started working with this other company, and just as a byproduct, you started coaching just very naturally.
Yeah.
So what was the sort of time frame for all of that?
Yeah. So when that business crashed and burned, that was about 23 or 24 years ago, I think. And again, that just prompted me to dig deep into mindset, and at the same time was cranking up that new business, the tech venture. And I traveled around for, I don't know, probably 15 years around the United States speaking. And then about 6 years ago, launched full-time into what I'm doing now.
Mm. And was that scary, or was it just a natural progression?
You know, it was a natural progression, and it was scary because I was leaving a high-paying job, a high-paying paycheck, and was going to be completely reliant on this. And I was going into the unknown again. Mm. But I've never shied away from going into the unknown because it's always been exciting and rewarding, and the growth that comes out of going into the unknown, right? In fact, everything that we want always seems to be in the unknown, right?
Totally, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's kind of one of those lessons that I'm familiar with now, and I have a higher level of trust. So is it uncomfortable and scary? Yes, but I do trust that there's going to be something wonderful that comes out of it. And I think that's one of the most powerful lessons that I've received in my life, is to trust, because I don't have all the answers. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I'm trusting that life is going to work out for me. It always has. Even when I was on, we qualified for food stamps. I mean, some people say, well, you just said your business crashed and burned. How could that be life working out? Well, it's life working out because it provided an opportunity for further growth, right? I was able to grow and learn from that. And eventually now I'm doing something that, like I just said, I think is the most fulfilling thing that I could possibly do in my life, which is I'm helping people change the way they think in order to produce outstanding results in their health, wealth, and relationships.
And do you have a particular niche that you like to work with, or is it anyone and everyone?
Yeah, so great question, because that is frequently that's what business mentors will tell you. Niche down, and really find your ideal audience. And I believe that that's accurate. And I thought my group was going to be entrepreneurs. I deal with a lot of entrepreneurs, but I also deal with physicians, attorneys, stay-at-home moms, stay-at-home dads, athletes, veterans. So I have a broad spectrum of clients with whom I work, and still a lot of entrepreneurs. But what I realized, and it has become abundantly clear, is no matter what you're dealing with, our professional and personal lives, like I said, are inextricably intertwined.
Mm.
So if I shift my thinking around some of my areas of my personal life, it affects my professional life. And if my professional life is going well, it affects my home life, right?
Yeah, totally. Okay, and when you started this business, were you still working full time? Did you run the two together, or did you just go, nope, I'm starting it?
Yeah, there was about a year, 2 years where I was operating them in tandem, and then and then I had a neck surgery, and my mom passed, and there were some really critical events that happened, and my wife has just been so supportive of me. I'm just so grateful for that. She really was the person who said, Fletcher, it's time to go do this full time, and trust that you have what it takes. We'll make things work, and you need to dedicate all your time and attention to this. So she really was the one who kind of gave me a kick in the butt and helped me cut the strings and go for it full time.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We all need somebody like that in our life, don't we?
Yes, we do. Yes.
And you've got a weekly TV program that you do, is that right?
I do. Yeah. My wife and I do that together. She comes on and does it once or twice a month with me, and just really lucky to have that. It's been so much fun, and it's just, it's just a regional show. So, but it goes into everyone's home who has the cable, so they get to see our show, and it's a great opportunity. We just talk about health, wealth, and relationships. My wife is a family physician, so I bring the positive psychology portion of the show, and then she comes on and brings a health topic. It's super fun to do this with my wife. We just have a fun time on it, and I always learn something because I have zero knowledge about the medical field. So what she brings is always fascinating to me, and we're a good mix because we're talking about health, and then we talk about psychology, and we answer questions on the show, and just get kind of explore this concept of self-inquiry.
And so how did that come about?
Well, that's a good question. So years ago, I decided that I wanted to do something called a rejection experiment. And the reason I wanted to do this is because I realized the game that I want to play in my life, which is to help people change the way they think in order to produce outstanding outcomes in their life. It was going to require something of me that was a bit scary. I had to be able to ask people for anything. I needed to be able to make requests of people without being stopped by fear. And I don't know if you've ever been in the sales game, but if you run your own business
for over 20 years.
Okay, well, there you go. All right. So you know what I'm talking about. There can be a fear of rejection, right? There can be, oh, I don't want to pick up and make these cold calls, or I don't want to interrupt people, or I don't want to upset people or offend people, or they're probably going to say no. We have all this stuff around selling, not just selling, but making requests, even of general people. We're worried about offending somebody. And so I saw some TED talk. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he talked about doing something, a rejection experiment as well. And I did it differently than him, but he really was the catalyst. I was like so impressed that he did this. And so what I began doing was a series of rejection experiments where I would make a ridiculous and audacious request of someone that I didn't know. And the request had to make me nervous. Okay, it couldn't just be.
Give us an example then, go on.
Yeah, so having this television show was one of them.
Okay.
Right, so I decided I wanted to have a TV show, but I didn't have any experience. I had plenty of experience speaking, but I don't know anything about that. So I just thought, what the heck? Why don't I just go ask for it? What would happen if I began asking for things that I wanted? And so I made a request. These people took my meeting. I pitched this idea, and then they said, this sounds interesting. Let's do it.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, and so I, you know, we've been doing it for, I think we're on our 3rd or 4th year now or something like that. And so it's been super fun. But so this rejection experiment allowed me to really learn so much about this concept called rejection. And so, for instance, but it afforded me incredible opportunities. Like we went down to Mazatlan one year where we liked to vacation. And I was doing these rejection experiments. And on the plane, I was thinking, well, I know I'm on vacation, but I still want to keep on doing my experiment. So I got to do one down there in Mexico. So we got off the plane, we got to our resort, and I decided I'm going to see if I can lead a meeting for all the salespeople down here who sell timeshares, right? So you go to these resorts and they have all these people who are selling the timeshares. And I thought, let me see if I can go do a meeting here. Now, there's no reason they would let me do that. They don't know me from Adam. I don't speak Spanish, but I found the manager and I said, hey, Mario, could I speak with you for a few minutes? And we had a nice chat, and, you know, 5 minutes stretched into 10, 10 into 15, 15 into 20. And at the end of the meeting, Mario said, I'd like you to come and lead our sales meeting on Wednesday morning. And in fact, I'm going to make it mandatory that everybody is here. And so Wednesday morning came and 50 of his agents were there. And here I'm leading the sales meeting and doing an inspirational talk to this group of people down in Mexico, right? Then what happened was they found out my wife is a family physician, and they said, hey, do you think that there's any chance she'd be willing to come back one morning and talk to us about just creating health and a higher level of health and vitality in our lives? And so she went back. And so what happens is when we make requests that people think we would receive a no to, we frequently get surprised and they say yes. And I'll give you just one more example, because this one really is like ridiculous and audacious. So I was walking down the road in California. We were visiting our in-laws. And see, one of the rules is that for this rejection experiment is the requests that I make, like I said, they have to make me really nervous. It can't just be an easy ask, okay? And I can't do it to impress anybody. So I can't say like to my friend, like, hey, I'm going to go make this crazy request. It has to be by myself. So I'm not trying to impress anybody. I really have to be nervous, like I don't want to do it. And so I'm walking down the road on this beautiful sunny morning in Southern California, and I'm going past this house on my left, and I notice that their garage door is open, and inside there's a ping pong table and a table tennis table. And I thought to myself, oh no, don't do this one. This one's too scary. But I had already had the thought, so I knew I had to do it. So, because I love to play ping pong, so I decided, okay, I'm going to do it. So I decided to walk up to their front door, which again was scary because I had to cross somebody's physical property boundary, right? So I had to walk up there and knock on the door, and the dog was barking. I could hear the dog barking, and then some people shuffling around, and someone came to the door, and it was a woman, and she said, hello, can I help you? I said, yeah. I said, hey, my name's Fletcher. I live in Washington State. I was just walking by, saw that you had a ping pong table there. I was wondering if anybody in your family would be up for a game of ping pong this morning with me. And so
I think you could play ping pong.
Yes, exactly, right. And so she said the same thing that almost everybody says when I first make one of these ridiculous requests. She said, what? And I said, yeah, my name is Fletcher. I'm from Washington State. I was wondering if you guys were up for a game of ping pong. And she paused and said, do we know you? I said, no, you don't know me. I'm from Washington State, up here visiting my in-laws. Just wanted to see if anyone wanted to play ping pong. She says, hold on a second. She closes the door. I hear some muffled voices. And then a few seconds later, a gentleman appears at the door. He's like, can I help you? I said, yeah, my name's Fletcher. I went through the whole spiel again, right? And same thing, he said, we don't know you? I was like, nope, I just looking for a game of ping pong. And then he says, hold on a second. He shuts the door. Here's some more muffled voices. And then a few seconds later, their teenage son opens the door. He says, hey, my dad says you're looking for someone to play ping pong with. And I said, yeah, do you want to play some ping pong? He says, sure, let's go. And so we went out and played ping pong, had a couple of games. He probably beat me, but after a couple of games, I was like, hey, thanks a lot. Have a good day. And I went on my way. But the whole thing is like, that's weird.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought for sure that they were going to say no. I thought
who
for
is this
sure.
Weirdo? Yeah, who is this weirdo?
Yeah, right, exactly. But they didn't say no, they said yes. Now, Mel, I took this same way of being willing to ask, make big requests. And it's what allowed me actually to begin creating partnerships with billion-dollar companies in our country. They didn't know me from Adam, but I called. And so, I mean, people would say, what, you got a contract with Better Homes and Gardens? Or how did you do that? I picked up the phone and I asked for a meeting. So what this experience taught me was that I can ask for anything. The worst that's going to happen is that they're going to say no. Mm. And one of the best things that could happen is they can say yes. And then the adventure begins.
Wow. So when you pick up the phone to reach out to these big corporations or whatever, what is it you're actually asking the meeting for? What is it that you want to do with them?
Yeah. So back then it was, to take a look at this technology that we had, right? And have a sit down. Now, what I'm asking people to do is, let's have a conversation about client and employee retention. Let's have a conversation about taking your business from where it is now to where you want it to go, right? Let's have a conversation about what it would look like if the company culture and a company morale were such that your people loved to be there, they were inspired to be there, and they had a can-do attitude. Like, what you see, I believe there's all this talk about company culture. Well, I believe that mindset is the #1 differentiator when it comes to company culture and client and employee retention. It all comes back to mindset. But the thing is, most of us don't understand how we actually even think. We don't. I mean, we don't even, like, if I say to a client, like, do you think you can change the way you think in order to produce different outcomes? It's a real stopping point for them, because they're like, well, I'm not even sure how I think, right? Or some people think, oh yeah, I can change the way I think. And they're like, wait a second, how do I think? Oh yeah, actually, let's have a conversation about how I think, and then I can maybe change it. So this concept of changing the way we think is a really complex conversation, because none of us have ever really understood how it is we form thoughts. We think that oftentimes that the thoughts that we're thinking we thought them, when in reality, many of our thoughts just show up without our permission, consent, or approval. And then we pay attention to them and think, oh man, I must have thought that, when in fact, they just showed up. So what would it look like? What could life look like if we were in charge of the thinking? If the thoughts that we thought were actually in alignment with what we wanted, and we could produce our thoughts and our feelings on demand. That's an exciting idea, because our thoughts produce our outcomes. Would you agree with that? Or the way we think has something to do with the outcomes that we're producing.
Sure, yeah.
So if we can become more intentional about what we're thinking, that might really affect the trajectory of our outcomes.
So is that the sort of main ethos around how you coach people?
It is, yes.
And
so what I do is I
was going to say, how do you do that then?
Yeah, so I literally help people change the way they think. And what that means is this: they begin having thoughts that they previously have not thought. Then that's radical, right? And so, and that's what I'm about. I'm about helping people create radical results in their life. So if we want radical results, we have to do something radical, which is change the way we think so that we're literally beginning to think thoughts that we haven't thought before. And so people say, well, how do you do that? Well, it's a in-depth conversation. I mean, I work with people over 12 months, and we start at the very beginning so there's a lot of science that we're looking at, right? And there's a lot of psychology, and a lot of self-inquiry. And we're begin to identify our current patterns of thinking, first of all, so that we can, and we ask this question: does this current way of thinking about this thing in my life, does it serve me? And we throw out all the labels of good, bad, right, and wrong. I'm not a fan of those. The main question we ask ourselves is this line of thinking that I have about my health or my fitness or my finances or my marriage or my career, this line of thinking that I have about that, does it serve me or not? Does it help me move forward, or does it hold me back? So we literally get really curious about the thoughts that we're currently thinking. And then we can decide, do those serve me or not? Because if they don't serve me, we're going to show, I then show my clients how to set up a new line of thinking to replace that. And that way we can begin changing our focus. We can direct our focus onto this new way of thinking, because what I'm a big proponent of is what we focus on, we feel. And what we focus on consistently expands, it grows, and ultimately that becomes our point of attraction. So we begin attracting more of what we're focused on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfectly, yeah.
But it's a practice. And so my curriculum is called The Practice of Feeling Good, because I believe that most of us in life are practiced at feeling pretty terrible. Yeah. We feel insecure, we feel frightened, we feel uncertain, we feel disconnected, we feel upset, depressed, we feel all these things. So, but we're very practiced at that. We don't have to even think about it. Many of us, we wake up and we're already in a funk, right? Because we're practiced at it. This is the practice of feeling good. And when I say feeling good, Mel, what I mean is feeling connected, feeling secure, feeling inspired, feeling grateful, right? Feeling fulfilled, feeling eager, feeling enthusiastic. Because when we have these ways of feeling, it determines the actions that we take. And then the actions, of course, determine our results. So it all starts with mindset.
How long, say if you were, and you had a new client and they were particularly negative and had been in this funk for, say, 40 years or whatever, how long would you expect it to take for them to be able to turn that around?
Yeah, great question. So, my curriculum is a 12-month curriculum. And in that 12 months, I firmly believe, and by the way, you'll start seeing, my clients start seeing results from the first session. It's not uncommon that they're like, whoa, this was powerful. I can't wait for our next session. And I'll give you an example. Let's take something extreme. Let's take people, because my wife and I used to teach this seminar, or lead this seminar called Diabetes Smackdown, the Ultimate Solution. And this conference or seminar, the seminar was designed for people who were either dealing with type 2 diabetes or who were at risk for type 2 diabetes. And so these people who were in attendance, many of them have tried everything. They have tried everything and are facing amputation. They're facing heart disease. They're facing, some of them are massively depressed. They're on umpteen types of pills and medications. And we weren't there to tell them how to exercise or how to eat. What we were there to do was to answer this particular question that almost all of them have, which is this: I don't know how I got here, and I don't know why I don't do what I know I should be doing. I don't know why I can't get myself to do the things I know I should be doing.
That's massive, isn't it? That's massive for so many people.
Yes, yes, right. And so as a result of them going through this course, and then they went on and did some months of coaching with me. Excuse me. I'm thinking of these participants, these 3 women particularly, all had depression, all had or were at risk for type 2 diabetes, all on medications. At the end of working with me, all 3 of them had lost a ton of weight, their depression was gone, they had reduced the number of medications significantly, and all 3 of them finished their first ever triathlon, where they had to swim, bike, and run. And that wasn't even something that was remotely on their radar. None of them ever thought, oh yeah, I want to do a triathlon. No, this came as a result of them massively shifting their psychology and beginning to think differently about their lives and what was possible. They literally began thinking new thoughts, and those thoughts led to a different way of feeling, and that different way of feeling led to different actions, and therefore they had these incredible, radical outcomes.
That sounds
and
amazing.
That's what's possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm interested about the work stuff you said about getting more engaged staff and employees and stuff, because
Yes.
I do something similar. So I'm interested to know how you approach that, because I'm a coach anyway in terms of life purpose, relationships, career. I'm also part of something else called Ultimate Contribution, which is it's an 8-call pathway basically, and it's all about, you can do it on an individual level, but you also we're doing it within businesses, and it's about business alignment for the leaders. So as businesses grow, as you probably already know this, there can be a disconnect, and with new leaders that come in, different personalities, different sets of values, not aligned to what the original business values and vision and mission was. So it all needs to be realigned again. So the work we do is to do that from the leaders down. And when a business becomes very clear on its values and its vision and its mission, the people that work for that business, they're either, some of them are going to go because obviously it doesn't suit, but the ones that are wedded to that and believe in that will more likely be loyal and stay, rather than being recruited off for better money or whatever. So it's the same thing as you. It's about decreasing staff attrition and improving the employee experience, and also improving the client experience, etc. So, but that's through sort of core values, vision and mission, very much so, and goals and strategies. So are you approaching businesses in the same way that you've just talked about in terms of changing thoughts?
Yes. Yeah. So in fact, and what I really love is the opportunity when a company gives me the opportunity to work directly with their employees, with their teams.
Yeah.
Because what we do is we begin implementing just kind of what I was telling you about. There's some basic distinctions that we introduce to them so that their people can begin to identify their own patterns of thinking. And they with these basic tools, they can begin to identify their patterns of thinking and determine, like, oh, this line of thinking is not even accurate. Because so many times the thoughts that we think, oh, I'm thinking it must be accurate, right? It becomes like an opinion. And these distinctions allow them the opportunity to get some distance between them and their thoughts, and really go, oh, you know what? That's not accurate. And it provides the opportunity and space for them to choose and like literally make up a different thought pattern. And then they can focus on that. So it's really powerful when the people, when the employees and teams have an opportunity to see for themselves that my thoughts are not advancing me, they're holding me back. And this might be in sales, it could be in HR, it could be anything. I mean, I worked with a group of employees at a clinic, and on the calls where there were physicians, there were HR directors, there were nurses, there were janitors. It was everybody from all different positions that made that clinic run. But they all had opinions about their work, the workplace, the employees, their colleagues. So it was extremely valuable for them to be able to look at their opinions and make that determination. Is this accurate? Does it serve me? Does it serve my company? And if not, what are some other ways of thinking that I could embrace that would make a difference for me and my work community? It's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And how long have you been working with businesses? Has that been the whole time, sort of 6 years?
Yeah. So it's been the whole time. Yeah. And I work with individuals. I mean, in fact, most of my clients are individuals, but I definitely love working with groups of people, and Zoom has actually made that super possible. So it's perfect for, like I was just telling you about this clinic that I worked with. It was awesome. The company paid for this group of people to meet regularly with me on a weekly basis, and it made it available to all the employees, which is really neat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. So if somebody listening wanted to work with you, what's the best way? I mean, is it sort of, obviously you talked about the diabetes, that's a specific issue that people are facing or have got. But if somebody is listening, why? I suppose my question is, if they wanted to work with you, A, how could they find you? But B, who is, I know you haven't got a niche, but who is that client that would massively benefit from working with you? Yeah.
All right. Good questions. So first of all, you can find me at FletcherEllingson.com. Just my first and last name, FletcherEllingson.com, or you can go to thepracticeoffeelinggood.com. They both go to the same site. That's the easiest way, or you can reach out to me on Facebook. And who would massively benefit? Great question. Again, anybody who is looking to create a shift in their life, anybody who's looking to create a new outcome, like a radical outcome. And when I say radical, it doesn't necessarily mean like massive, but it's radical in the sense that it's an outcome that they simply haven't had access to before. It might be like, I want to shift my marriage. I want to feel connected in my marriage, or I want to launch my business, or I've already launched my business, but I've plateaued and I want to take it to that next level. Or I'm working right now. I just brought on a new client who's a veteran. So I work with veterans. Sometimes people get out of the military and there's a huge transition that is very uncomfortable. So anybody who's looking to create something, a radical outcome in their life, in their health, wealth, or their relationships. And while I don't give specific health advice, it doesn't matter. What we're talking about is the mindset, because everything starts in the mind. And I probably, I have a sneaky suspicion that you would agree with that. Yes?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. Okay, well, thank you so much. It's been very insightful, and I know the listeners will get a lot of value from what you've shared there. In terms of, I always like to leave these conversations with any pearls of wisdom that you feel called to share. Is there anything you'd like to leave the listeners with?
Yeah. So the thing that I tell myself and my clients on a regular basis is this: create thoughts that you want to have. And I'll give you an example. Years ago, I just made the declaration. I decided that I wanted to believe about myself that I'm resourceful, capable, and flexible. Because I believe that if I'm resourceful, capable, and flexible, there's nothing I can't do. Anything is available to me if I'm resourceful, capable, and flexible. And so create a story about who you are and what's possible for you. Just create an empowering story. You don't have to believe it right away. A belief is simply a feeling of certainty, and we bring evidence in to support it. It might take time, but create an empowering story that would feel good if you believed it, and look at that story on a regular basis. I'm resourceful, capable, flexible. All that I need is within me right now. Good things are lined up, stacked up, showing up daily. Life is working out for me. It always has, always is, and always will. Create these empowering stories because, and here's the kicker, whatever you focus on, you feel. Whatever your brain is focused on, your brain must create an emotion that is in alignment with what you're focused on. So if you're focused on something that's empowering, inspiring, and feels good, your brain creates the chemical reaction known as an emotion that is in alignment with that. So focus on something that feels good.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it. Love it. I also love the rejection experiment. I don't know whether I'm going to be brave enough to take it on like you did, but I've never heard of that before. But it's got a great, it's like a double-edged sword, but it in a very positive way, isn't it?
Yes.
And I'm thinking about things in my own life at the moment where you do talk yourself out of things, and
yes,
it's stupid, it's crazy, and it's like you said, what's the worst can happen? They say no.
Exactly.
So what,
Exactly.
So yeah, and that's a big takeaway for me. So thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you today.
Thanks so much, Mel.
Take care.
All right.